Welcome back. The 13th Triennial Meeting of Commonwealth Women's Affairs Ministers kicked off on Monday evening with an opening ceremony at the Atlantis Resort. Commonwealth Women's Affairs Ministers are meeting to discuss strategies for achieving gender equality across all 56 member countries. Prime Minister Philip Davis delivered the keynote address, encouraging delegates to continue to empower women and advance the rights of women within the workplace.
Only when we do more to protect and empower women in our societies will our communities and societies achieve our full potential. As we work toward our promise to bring a new day to the Bahamas, my administration relies on a diverse team with broad expertise and varied backgrounds, inclusive of women occupying key positions in the cabinet and throughout the government. While we acknowledge this progress, we still want to see more political and government participation, and we know that achieving this requires active leadership and thoughtful policies. We also know that despite the great strides which have been made by women in the workplace, women can occupy more of the top spots in our private sector corporate structures. All of our children should have an expectation that their hard work, excellence and achievements will be evaluated fairly.
The Prime Minister asserted more must be done to demolish the walls of the old boys club and make the most of talent of all humanity. He spoke of what his administration has done and is doing to help women across the country.
My administration has sought to address the social and systemic factors contributing to violence against women and girls through increased funding to construct a new women's shelter and to provide legal aid for survivors of domestic violence through social services and the Office of the Judiciary. We've also made meaningful progress in protecting survivors of domestic abuse and sexual violence through the recently passed Protection Against Violence Act, which establishes and protects the rights of victims, allows for the allocation of more resources, and focuses on sensitizing and training within the police force and other organizations that work directly with survivors. The levels of violence against women and girls remain unacceptable. We can't stop working on this issue until women are safe everywhere, whether they're walking alone at night, in their workplaces and schools, or at home with loved ones.
Prime Minister Davis contends that all countries must evaluate how different issues affect members of their population differently and design policies effective for all. The event is being hosted by spouse of the Prime Minister, Anne Marie Davis. During the launch of the 13th Commonwealth Women's Affairs Ministers meeting at the Atlantis, Minister of Social Services and Urban Development, Obi Wilscombe, says during the course of the meeting, a great deal of focus will be on tough issues such as economic empowerment of women.
We'll certainly deal with the tough issues such as economic empowerment of women, issues that we believe we can find answers for, women in leadership, violence against women and girls, gender and climate change, and of course the question of inclusion. Over these meetings, we certainly will reflect on the women who were taken from us. We'll think about the women who are beaten and who live in sounds of silence. We'll think of the little girl who simply has a dream to be somebody, who wants an education, who wants to fulfill her dreams.
Minister Wilscombe reflected on the 1985 movement when the Commonwealth met here in the Bahamas and made great strides towards the release of Nelson Mandela. He says it is time to use that same unity and strength to release the shackles from women in the world.
We played a major role, you, the Commonwealth, we collectively played a major role in the change. And 6 years later, he walked a free man, free of the chains and shackles. It is now our time to unchain remove the shackles from the women of the world. We have the opportunity. The strength of the Commonwealth collectively can make that change. And we believe that this conference offers us the opportunity. It just happens to be the right time.
That was Minister of Social Services and Urban Development, Obi Wilshcombe. The third Prime Minister in the history of the Bahamas celebrated his birthday at the Progressive Liberal Party's headquarters with family, friends, and supporters on Monday. Former Prime Minister Perry Christie celebrated his 80th birthday. Former and current ministers of the government expressed their love and gratitude for the former Prime Minister.
Even in a role simply as the Minister of Transport and Housing, I cannot imagine the amount of stress and pressure one had to endure as Prime Minister, but I can appreciate the value and the worth of what you've done for us and for the people.
Former Prime Minister, you came in here just now and you said that you remember when you came in here, you was a young Turk, you know, and as I sat down in there as a young Turk right now, it's so profound that, you know, that you've continuously given back to this party, to this country, and I want you to know that we appreciate you and your name and your legacy. It will remain strong and will be carried on, and it will be remembered to the honors of history and time.
One profound statement that the Honorable Perry Christie made was that there is far too much suffering in this land of plenty. That statement, as simple as it is, stood out for me when he said it to this very day. And his life has been to ensure that he eased the suffering of everyone in this country.
Longtime friend and political colleague Prime Minister Philip Davis brought back fond memories while sharing a few laughs.
You know, in the law office we had this logbook where we used to talk about, record our activity. And I know Christie, I know Ingram. So one day, Ingram had the logbook and wrote something in about Christie. And when Christie saw he was enraged, he come to say, look at me and said, Brave, look what Ingram wrote in this book about me. So what he wrote? He said, well, Christie drunk today. And you know I don't drink. You know, I teetotal here and there. If anyone will read this book now, they believe I'm a drunkard, I come to book drunk. So I went to Ingram, I said, why you write this about it, Christie? He said, well, you know, that was Thursday, right? I said, yeah. He was tipsy. He said, and he was drunk. I said, no, you know, we just did this case with Walker, I think it was. And Christie was happy, got a big check, and he had 2 drinks and he came back. Yeah, but he was drunk. I wrote the truth. I said, but people can believe that he's a drunkard. I write the truth. And I tell Christie, so what's me? A couple of months later, he don't come and run into me. Look what Christie write about. Look what Christie write. I said, what did he write? Ingram sober today.
In response, Mr. Christie shared words of encouragement and spoke fondly of the political party he dedicated his life to.
I remember when I became leader, and it was a flat roof. And I said, we have to win the next election. We were heading towards 2002 election. Let us transform this house where people are going to pass it, this building. Let's make it a monument for those who would pass by and say, goodness me, look at what they are doing. And people in their belief and their reasoning and their understanding, they watch and they feel, and they begin to feel and see the transformation that was taking place just by watching this building transform itself.
That was former Prime Minister Perry Christie celebrating his 80th birthday. And finally, the IAAF World Track and Field Championships in Budapest, Hungary has already produced many thrilling moments for track and field fans around the world. As the competition moves into day 5 on Wednesday, Team Bahamas still looking for its first medal. For the latest on Team Bahamas, we learn more in this next report. The Bahamas 11-member team entered into Day 4 of competition at the IAAF World Track and Field Championships in Budapest, Hungary, still looking for its first medal. Unfortunately, our best chance for a medal was lost when Olympic champion in the 400 meters Stephen Gardner pulled up with an injury with 100 meters to go in his semifinal heat of the 400 meters and did not finish that race, missing out on the finals. Gardner easily won his first round heat on Sunday in 44.65 seconds and took the third fastest time into today's semifinals. Alonzo Russell did not advance from the first round of the heats of the men's 400 meters. The 31-year-old Grand Bahamian finished 6th in his heat in 46.95 seconds. Competing in the heats of the women's 400 meters on Sunday morning, Shawnee Miller-Weibo, 29 years old, returning from giving birth to her son in April, was not able to reach peak fitness in time for these championships and failed to advance to the semifinals after clocking 52.65 to finish 7th in her heat in a season's best time. After the race, Shawnee said that she had fun, she didn't want to just give the title away, and that she will now focus on the remainder of this season and prepare for the 2024 Olympic Games. Also from Sunday, high jumper Donald Thomas, 39 years old, did not advance to the high jump final after finishing 9th in his qualification group with a best leap of 2.25 meters, 7 feet 4.5 inches. In the heat of the men's 100 meters, Terrence Jones ran hard but was not able to advance to the semifinals after clocking just 10.23 seconds for 6th in his heat. And in the heat of the men's 400 meter hurdles, Shaquem Hall-Smith, 7th in his heat in 49.61 seconds, did not advance to the semifinals. Also in action for the Bahamas today was Devon Charlton in the women's 100-meter hurdles. She ran in heat number 3, lane number 9, finished 2nd in a new Bahamas national record time, 12.44 seconds, and will be in the semifinals on Wednesday, running in heat 1, lane number 6. On Wednesday, during day 5, we can expect to see Rima Otabor in the qualifying rounds of the women's javelin, Charisma Taylor in the women's triple jump, Laquan Nairn in the men's long jump qualifiers, Anthony Strawn will compete in the heats of the women's 200 meters. That's the latest on Team Bahamas from the IAAF World Track and Field Championships in Budapest, Hungary. And that'll do it for your JCN Evening News. Once again, I'm Dorino Saunders. Thanks so much for joining us.
This segment of the news has been brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.